All right, let's unpack this. We're doing a deep dive today into a pretty serious strategic weather and climate risk warning. It covers Europe, Western Russia, and the North Caucasus, specifically for August 7th to 16th, 2025. We've got a stack of detailed reports here, and our job is basically to cut through the noise for you. We want to give you the essential insights, highlight what really matters. Think of it as maybe your shortcut to understanding this unfolding threat.
Yeah, and what's really striking here is this isn't just a forecast. It's a real case study of climate change accelerating in Europe. I mean, Europe's the fastest warming continent globally. So we'll look at the main hazard, this intense long heat wave, but also a secondary threat, severe storms, which could be frankly catastrophic. And crucially, we'll connect it all back to what these bigger trends mean for you.
Okay, so let's zoom in a bit from that big picture. For this specific period, August 7th to 16th, what's the immediate practical takeaway for people listening?
Well, the context is just vital. You know, Europe is warming at about double the global rate. That's roughly half a degree Celsius per decade. So what this means is that extreme events, like the ones we're seeing forecast now, they're kind of becoming, well, the expected, the new baseline. Just look at heat waves over the last 40 years. They're linked to like 85%, maybe up to 145,000 deaths in Europe. And the World Meteorological Organization, the WMO, they're saying there's an 80% chance that 1 year between 2025 and 2029 will be even warmer than 2024, which is the current record holder.
Wow. That perspective, it really puts the specific warning into sharp focus, doesn't it? So what's actually driving this particular event we're looking at?
There's very strong agreement in the models about a dominant high-pressure system, what people often call a heat dome, settling over the continent. But it's being massively amplified. There's this ongoing, historically intense marine heat wave in the Mediterranean Sea. Sea surface temperatures there are running 1.5 to almost 2 degrees Celsius above normal. That warm water acts like a heat engine. It anchors the dome, pulls in incredibly hot air from North Africa. And the really concerning part, climate change seems to be making these weather patterns more likely to just get stuck, persist.
Yeah.
Leading to these prolonged impacts.
Right. Getting stuck, you said. That persistence is key. So with this massive heat dome parked over Europe, where are the absolute hotspots likely to be? Where should people be most concerned?
Well, it's definitely a continental scale event. But yeah, certain regions are flagged for really critical conditions. We could see Paris hitting maybe 37 Celsius, London perhaps 30. Southern Spain, though, forecasts are looking at 42 Celsius. That's potentially up to 10 degrees above the norm for them. Even Moscow might see temperatures in the high 20s. And places like Rostov-on-Don in Western Russia, they could be looking at 35 to 38 degrees Celsius. Now, combine that intense heat with below average rainfall, you get rapidly worsening drought conditions. And that elevates the wildfire risk significantly, particularly in Russia's key agricultural areas, their breadbasket regions.
Okay, I have to ask this, though. You're talking about this huge, stable heat dome. But you also flagged a major threat from severe storms. That sounds almost contradictory. How does that work?
It does, yeah, it sounds paradoxical, I know. But here's where it gets really interesting and quite dangerous. That intense heating at the surface builds up enormous instability in the atmosphere above. Think of it like putting a lid on a boiling pot. If something manages to break through that high-pressure cap, that lid, the energy release is just explosive. That leads to these powerful, but often quite isolated thunderstorms. And the main threat from these storms, large destructive hail. In fact, some studies project that while small hail might decrease, the frequency of really big hailstones, say larger than 5 centimeters, could jump by 30 or 40% across much of Europe. We just saw a powerful hailstorm hit northern Italy and Spain on August 2nd, actually. It serves as a direct precedent. And the same physics, this instability that also increases the risk of extreme rainfall and flash floods, especially near mountains like the Alps or the Balkans. Because warmer air holds more moisture, right? About 7% more for every degree Celsius of warming.
That's a chilling thought. The potential for that kind of explosive storm activity on top of the heat. So is there any particular region where all these different hazards, the heat, the drought, the potential for these violent storms really converge, like a perfect storm scenario?
Absolutely. The analysis points pretty clearly to the North Caucasus region in Russia as a zone of critical compounded risk. It's an area already experiencing significant warming trends, and this forecast heat wave will speed up glacial melt in the Caucasus Mountains. That meltwater saturates the ground below, and it destabilizes these huge deposits of loose rock and soil on the slopes. Then combine that saturated, unstable ground with the potential for intense localized thunderstorms, which are also forecast for that region. Well, It primes the landscape for catastrophic mud flows or debris flows. We saw this exact mechanism trigger a devastating event in neighboring Georgia back in August 2023. 24 people died. It's a known serious risk there.
Okay, so stepping back from the specific mechanisms, what does all this mean for you, the listener, just in practical, everyday terms across these affected regions?
Right, the impacts really cut across critical sectors. Public health is a major one. Strain on services, especially with tropical nights forecasts where temperatures don't drop below 20 Celsius. That prevents people from recovering from the daytime heat. Energy grids will face record demand for cooling, but high temperatures actually make power generation and transmission less efficient. So a double whammy. Agriculture obviously suffers from heat stress, lack of water, and potential hail damage wiping out crops. Transportation infrastructure, roads buckling, train tracks warping could see disruptions. And looking a bit longer term in northern Russia, the thawing permafrost associated with these warming trends poses real threats to infrastructure like pipelines. What's really insightful, I think, is seeing how these effects cascade. It's not just heat or storms, it's heat leading to drought, which then primes the landscape for explosive storms and their consequences. It really exposes vulnerabilities.
So this deep dive into just this 10-day period, August 7th to 16th, 2025, it feels like more than just a weather report. It really shows a period of heightened, yes, but also really complex interconnected weather risk, a clear window, maybe, into Europe's emerging climate future.
Indeed, it really is. The specific events forecast here are absolutely consistent with and clearly amplified by these long-term climate trends we've been talking about. You know, some of the sources we looked at are now talking about the need for a fundamental rethink, a deep paradigm shift in how societies prepare for this kind of thing. So maybe the question to leave you with is, what does this new normal actually mean for the choices you make? You know, from where you might live to how you travel, even what you value. It's definitely a question worth exploring.